Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday night service. Please join with me in consciousness as we begin the way we do all things. So I take a breath and I quiet my mind, accepting and knowing that there's one power in the universe, infinite, creative, intelligent. Omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. It is the life, it is the journey, it is the walk, it is the all in the all. So knowing that, I know that this evening as we come together, we do so in peace and love, in harmony, connecting one to the other in a way that expands consciousness, transforms the journey, and creates harmony wherever we look. It is in love, in joy, in peace, and in well-being that I find my strength and wisdom. And I know today that as we gather, we do so with open minds and loving hearts. And something said or done, the connection that we have one to the other creates a beautiful bridge, a bridge of possibility as we come to understand each other and deepen our own experience of our true self. So with gratitude and grace filled with love and light, I release these ideas into the law of mind action, knowing it is done. All is well. And so it is. Need to unmute, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Whitehead. Our land acknowledgement is we work, live, and play on the historical and traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe and Wendat peoples, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit and Haudenosaunee nations. As we gather from many places on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here. And we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, including the Métis, Inuit, and all other Indigenous people. Although I am not a person of African descent, I'm committed to continually acting in support of and solidarity with Black communities, seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black communities in Canada. As part of this commitment, I would also like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge those who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. In support of our ongoing efforts to confront anti-Black racism, we pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. We also acknowledge the contributions made, both in shaping and strengthening our community. By making these acknowledgements, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Our vision is transforming humanity through the emergence of the sacred, authentic self. And our mission statement is to welcome you as you are, where you are, without judgment or criticism, providing a sacred place of learning and growing as you seek to achieve your greatest dreams. We accomplish this by offering science of mind classes, social events, inspiring workshops, thought-provoking services, and practitioner support. We honor the revelation of your emerging sacred authentic self through our positive messaging and loving support.
And good evening. I am Reverend Mary Ellen Cassie, lovingly known as Rev ME with CSL on the Lake. And tonight's meditation is a mixture of some poetry and a couple of exercises for us to do. So take a moment and settle in right where you are. Find a comfortable position, and when you are ready, and if you're able and willing to close your eyes or keep them open, it's your choice, and just relax as we take in 3 breaths together. So inhale and exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And one more inhalation and exhale. And I begin this evening with a poem called Bridge. To bridge, adjoin, to the fabric of worth, combine, entwine in purpose with earth. Feel the essence of breath, coalesce with the living air. To grow, build, bridge this inner island somewhere. Thither across the stormy waters, at last, touch that distance, release. Bridge the heart, bind, embrace with the life of love's peace. By Kolarowski. Now, the energy of mindfulness is the energy of Buddha, God, Spirit, whichever you'd like to call your power. And it can be produced by anybody. That is correct, by anybody. It's as simple as breathing in and out. In Buddhist meditation, we practice resurrection every moment. Breathe, you are alive. The Holy Spirit is present with our mindful breath. This is the very practice of living in the present moment, this day. Mindfulness is a practice that consists in bringing the body and the mind back to the present moment. And every time we practice that, we come to life again. Now, this next poem is a very short poem, but one of my favorites. Of all the things I can do on this earth, I just want to build a bridge from my heart to yours. And I'm going to read it again. Of all the things I can do on this earth, I just want to build a bridge from my heart to yours. And this is by Alexandra Bazilou. And now I ask you to join me again, and this is a small exercise. I'd love you if you place your hand on your chest. If you're female, I use my left hand to do that. And if you're a male, you please feel free to use your right hand to place it on your heart. And we'll be repeating this 3 times. Breathing in, I am calming myself. Breathing out, I am smiling. Breathing in, I am calming myself. Breathing out, I am smiling. Breathing in, I am calming myself. Breathing out, I am smiling. In this way, we have lots of opportunities to return to ourselves, to our true home. This is a practice of connection, connecting our bodies and our breath. Building bridges is why we are here. I invite you to join me in my affirmation this evening. Love is always the place where I begin and end. So if you join me, please. Love is always the place where I begin and end. And join me in closing with, and so it is. Namaste. And now my great pleasure of bringing Reverend Barbara to the platform as she gives us her wonderful talk, Building Bridges and the Human Connection. Reverend Barbara.
Thanks, Emmy. Well, the idea of building bridges is such an important one. And I think sometimes we get busy in life and we forget the importance of these connections. And I really think over the last 3 years, maybe we became more aware. I think when we were forced to stay apart, when we were unable to connect in person, I think there was a sense of real loss that occurred as a result of that, because connecting is the most important thing that we can do on this journey called life and living. And when you think about little babies, for example, there's, a statement that if for some reason they don't receive love in those first few days, few months, then they will die. So there's an idea of connection that goes way beyond just the idea of kind of spending a little time together. It's more about really welcoming each other heart to heart. We think about the phrase namaste, which means, the consciousness within me greets the consciousness in you, that divine presence in you, that there is that connection there where we come together at that point. And I think what's really important is that we start to come back to a place where we do connect one to the other, where we are no longer, keeping separate because of fear of disease or whatever the fear might be. I think lately it's definitely been disease, but that we come together so that we can connect and support one another on this path of living. There's a journey that we're on that sometimes feels a bit confusing or difficult or challenging. And really what we need is each other. Because whatever it is that you require, maybe I have it, and whatever I require, maybe you have it. And so there's a coming together. And on Friday, when I did my Joy show, I had this wonderful couple on, Alberto and Money. And what they talked about was how they met and their journey, because they met at the end of the Camino Trail in Spain, and they started a new walk as complete strangers. Now, not only as complete strangers, but he speaks Spanish and she spoke English. Neither one knew the other language. So they started walking together and doing a peace walk from Rome to Jerusalem. So they walked together for 5,000 kilometers. And on this peace walk, more often than not, there was absolutely no peace happening. They were banging heads and trying to figure out how to do this together. And it took them a moment before they recognized the divine connection. that somehow they were brought together in a way that is beyond sort of our regular understanding of how these things occur. And it was really powerful to see that over time, as they had their battle of wits of control, there finally came that place of surrender where they realized that together they were more. And they're now married, been married for like 20 years, and they've got a great life together. What was fascinating about their story was the idea of peace, because I think sometimes we think peace is, I just sit back and nothing bad ever happens, and so I'm peaceful. But that's not what it is. It's that journey through the chaos, that journey through the disruptions that brings us to a place of peace. And when I look at the things that are happening in the world today, and I see the changes that are occurring and the disruptions that are happening, I think sometimes it's those very disruptions that allow us to see a new reality. And so last night when I was watching the Academy Awards, it was a tearful experience for me, because there was a shift. Because I remember just a couple of years ago, the conversation was, they never give an Academy Award to a person who is a colored person. They just don't do that. If you're Black, you don't get seen, you don't get heard. Last night was stunningly beautiful, with all of these people from all over the world doing all sorts of different things in different languages with different ideas. And there was a shift. There's been a shift. And the women were really honored, because that's the other persons that sort of get missed and kind of set aside. But there was this absolute joining together in a way that was beyond anything I'd seen before during the Oscars. And I was so delighted. I mean, I couldn't stay up till the end. Got to admit to that. I had to tuck in early, but it was beautiful to see the diversity, to see the respect, the honoring, and the beauty of that ceremony last night was different than I'd ever seen it before. And I was really grateful to see that, because I think when we look at the world around us, building bridges is about discovering what's different about us, and in discovering the differences, honoring that and being excited about it, right? I mean, if everybody was exactly like me, wow, what a boring world we'd live in, right? There'd be no interest, no excitement. There'd only be, a 5'2" brunette, right? Like a lot of good that would do. But when we see all of the different ways of processing information, the different ways of celebrating and rejoicing in our spirituality, as we begin to see the changes that occur when we get curious about each other, there's something that happens that's really remarkable. And of course, it begins with us. In the moment that I accept myself as I am, the way I'm created, my sacred, authentic self, as I come to terms about that and love that and accept that, then what happens is I am more curious about others. You see, when we separate, when we judge, when we criticize, if we would just take a moment and take the criticism that we have and take a look back within ourselves, we would start to see that there may very well be an area of our own life journey that we have rejected. And in that rejection, rather than dealing with the pain of that, we project onto others what it is we maybe don't like about ourselves, or we've not accepted about ourselves. So this idea of building a bridge begins with our own self. We have to start where we are. So we begin by acknowledging that we are, in fact, spiritual beings having this human experience. Now, it's not challenging being spiritual. That's our nature. The challenge is that we came into this life and now we're striving to be human. And it feels restrictive. It feels a little bit like a square peg in a round hole, and it's trying to figure it all out. And of course, we came in and we were given to people who were very well-meaning, but maybe could only teach us what they knew. And so it's up to us to find a new way, a new path, a new rhythm. So as we journey along, the idea of building a bridge begins with building that bridge within our humanity and our spirituality, coming to terms with who we really are and acknowledging this brilliance, this intelligence, this divine presence that is being us. And when we think about the idea of our spirituality, we come to realize that there's only one thing going on, right? This energy of life that we're living is really a reflection of this eternal presence, which is everywhere, right? It is everywhere at all times, in all ways. There is no way to separate from it. It is, we're it. And when we look at, if we go into the quantum physics idea, we take a look at, this essence, what we see is space, just space, with maybe a little speck here and there, but somehow consciousness pulls that into a form that creates the individualized expression that each one of us is. So we're all from the same source, we're all from the same substance, and yet somehow we show up in an individualized expression that allows us to create life in our own unique and remarkable way. So this journey is really about beginning with our own self, and from there welcoming the world so that we can begin to experience the fullness of life in the many, many remarkable ways that it shows up. I had so much fun last night watching the singers who were doing the Indian song. I can't remember the name of it, but the dancers and the singers, the music was so alive and so vibrant and so gorgeous. And it just had me going. I love Bollywood films. And so anytime I get an opportunity to listen to the singing and dancing, it just revs me right up. I have a good time with that. And I think sometimes learning about different cultures and different people and taking the time to sit and to listen, to explore what is different about us, but also to acknowledge what is the same. Because it is in acknowledging that sameness that we start to see that there is not so much different. Our perceptions, the way we were raised, the culture we were born into, the world we were born into, the city, the country, whatever, that might have brought with us maybe a different language, a different style of food, a different way of, creating ceremony. But ultimately, there is every one of us seeking some kind of good for our lives. We seek good. We seek good, whether it's in our health, in our financial affairs, the way we express creatively, the way we love one another, right? There's this idea of connection that's so deep within us that is so intrinsic to our well-being. And when I look at the world today, I see a lot of, increased mental health issues. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we had to be separate for so long. I think that caused a disconnect for us that we're now in the process of rebuilding. We're coming back together. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's challenging, right? There's still some fear. I mean, right now, my husband has COVID. So, we have a little separation in our household, but only, just a little bit of physical separation, but that too is coming to a conclusion, which I'm grateful for. But there's an idea of how we live life and what our expectations are of it. And as we develop our spirituality, as we develop our connection to the world, we start to see that there is great value in acknowledging all that we are and beginning to integrate that into the whole so that we see that all of us in one way or another are part of that whole. That I cannot be all that I am without you, and you cannot be all that you are without me. It's like there's this way of being that is so essential. And when I was getting ready for tonight, I was thinking about, Rev M.E. was telling me about the poetry she was using for the meditation. And I thought of a poem that means so much to me and has for as long as I can remember being in this Science Mind teaching. And it's at the beginning of the Science Mind textbook. Ernest Holmes wrote this poem. And for me, it speaks to the welcoming of one to another. And it's called Peace Be Unto Thee, Stranger. Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and be not afraid. I have left the gate open, and thou art welcome to my home. There is room in my house for all. I have swept the hearth and lighted the fire. The room is warm and cheerful, and you will find comfort and rest within. The table is laid, and the fruits of life are spread before thee. The wine is here also. It sparkles in the light. I have set a chair for you where the sunbeams dance through the shade. Sit and rest and refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit and drink of the wine. All is yours, and you are welcome. And that poem to me speaks about that connection. It speaks about that coming together, that as we welcome one another in this journey called life and living, we actually begin to create a world that is loving and compassionate, kind and respectful. We begin to create possibilities for collaboration and cooperation, for true community. We start to realize that together we are more. And I think that is one of the most valuable things we can take from this teaching of the science of mind. New Thought spirituality is about connection. And so building bridges comes with a sense of curiosity about one another, but maybe a curiosity about ourselves, right? Who am I anyway? Who am I for real? You know, when the lights go down and I'm all alone, am I okay with the person I'm sitting with? I remember years ago, just before I moved to Toronto in 2000, I did a Vipassana meditation retreat, a 10-day silent retreat. And what was fascinating about that time was when you're sitting in the silence, when there is no one to talk to look at, to touch, to be with, when there's no writing and no music and no workouts, when there's no journaling, no reading, there's only you and your consciousness, whatever that looks like. For 10 days, there's a coming to terms with the self that probably wouldn't happen any other way. There's an opening and an expansion that happens that is in some ways very difficult in the moment, but so rewarding as we journey through it, because there comes that time, in that time of silence, sitting in meditation every day for hours and hours and hours on end, where there's a breaking that happens, and it's the breaking of the will, that ego self that goes, wait a minute, no, this is how it's going to happen and why, and you know, that controlling aspect. I know I got that going on, that controlling aspect where we're trying to make things happen in a certain way, and we come to a place where there's nothing to control, where controlling actually doesn't work because it breaks us from where we're at. And in the moment that we sit in that silence day after day after day, hearing only what's going on in our own minds, the only sound is those inner thoughts. We start to see the beast that's running the show, that part of us that goes, oh, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're ridiculous, oh, you're this, you're that judgmental, critical self that maybe has been implanted through stories we heard as young children, but it's running and it's rampant and it becomes very painful. And at some point in time, it's like that ego self, the control that it has had is like snapped and it no longer can exist. And then from that, once that breaks, once we let that go, I think for me, it was around day 5 or 6, where all of a sudden it just stopped. And from there was a peacefulness and a calm that descended, that brought me to a new place of acceptance and understanding. And when I got to day 10, and we were at the end of our meditation time on that day, and it was time to return into the world and into the spoken word and into the energy, I had trouble leaving the meditation hall. The silence had become so sweet. The moments of simply being were so powerful. My experience of my oneness with this divine presence that has always been me, that moment was so profound that I was the last person to leave the hall. And the woman who was the guru in the room who held the space finally looked at me and said, "You really do have to go." And so I got myself up and went back into the cacophony of life. And it was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. And for the first time, I understood these, these monks that would sit on a mountaintop and meditate their life away. It's like, yeah, because that's easy. When we get past the ego, the mind control that's running our show, sometimes when we get past all of that, there's a sweetness, a serene connection that's so powerful. And it was hard to let that go. And coming back into the world, how do we maintain that? How do we maintain that peace in the midst of the struggle, the strife, the poverty, the wealth, the disconnect, the inequality, the stories that are going on around us all the time? How do we come back with that peaceful, calm energy and reestablish ourselves in the world of effect, the world of manipulation and coercion and competition? And it was a bit of a challenge for sure. But it is in coming back that we realize we're not here to separate. We're here to connect. We're here to build those bridges, to spend time together. We're here to truly love. And by loving, what that means is that I accept me as I am and I accept you as you are. Whether we agree or not is irrelevant. What matters is we listen, we connect, we collaborate. Maybe we even argue about points of reference, but we come together and we allow ourselves to be alive. I think we come into this life journey to live, not to put in time, but to fully live, to integrate with all of the variety of aspects of what life is, the ups and downs, the here and there, the sickness and health, the poverty and wealth, the creative expression and the depression that sometimes sets in, and the ideas of connection and separation. And all of it brings us to this place of full awareness of living, because that's what we're here to do, to live, to be present. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be sweet sunshine and rainbows, because we understand you can't have a rainbow without the rain. So we come to terms. We come to terms with the journey. We come to terms with life. And we find a way to be in it that satisfies our own yearning. And the mistake that often gets made is that we will spend our lives trying to satisfy the person in front of us who says we should be this or we should be that. Or maybe it's the stories our parents told us. You have to do this to be good, or if you do that, you're bad. And all of these stories we got that were flat out BS. We are here to live, not as something or someone or to satisfy somebody else's idea of who we are, but rather to find that sacred, authentic self, that self that God created us to be. We're here to be that. Find it, love it, express it. And yes, some people are going to be put off by you, and some will love you and some won't. And who cares? Because ultimately your expression of the divine nature that you are is what you're here to do and to be and to express. You see, our world is healed not because it's broken, because it isn't. Everything's working out for good. It's just that my good comes from myself. And as I figure out who I am and what it is I choose or want or desire or allow for my world, as I stand out rather than struggling to fit in, as I willingly share the gifts and talents that I was born with, that the Creator gave me to bring to this human experience, not for my benefit, but for the benefit. Each one of us is here to benefit the whole. Each one of us brings a little something, something that is unique to us that only we can bring, and it's up to us to bring it. And we go back to that little song, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Are you? Are you letting your light shine? Are you taking that gift that you are, because you are a gift to the universe at this time. You are a gift to the world. But we can only receive that gift if you give it. And as long as we're hiding, as long as we're wearing these veils that allow us to maybe feel safe because somebody told us when we were little we were bad and wrong, what we want to do is reveal the true self, find the true self. And we can do that through our spiritual practice, which is really why we do what we're doing here, right? We have our spiritual practice. We take time in meditation, not because it's a good thing to do or the right thing to do or the proper thing to do, but rather it is a way of discovering the essence of who we are. It allows us to discover the divine within us, to see how we were truly created, what it is we really bring. I remember when I had my first moment of epiphany at age 27, it was this powerful, powerful moment. This moment of knowing God as love, not as something outside of me or separate from me, not a man or a woman. It was an energy of love, and it was fully encompassing all that I was in that moment. And there was a sense of freedom and peacefulness that came from it, but also this power that who I am is sufficient. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away, altered, or changed. Who I am is sufficient to the life that I'm meant to live. Wow. Now, if all of us come to that place, now it lasted for a moment, and then I got back into the real world and, stumbled and fell once again. But, a saint is just a sinner who got up. And a sinner, is just somebody who made a mistake. And I don't know about you, but I've made a few of those, right? So you make a mistake, you trip, you fall. And yeah, you can quit. You can throw in the towel, or you can dust yourself off, get yourself back up and start again. And know that the now moment is the only moment that exists. It is the moment of power. It is the place where we create. It's our opportunity to fully be alive and present. And when we let go of all of those stories and all of those restrictions and all of the ways we think we should be, and instead allow ourselves to be present with who we are in the now moment, we start to realize how powerful we are and how brilliant we are and how remarkable we are. And that God created us absolutely perfect for what it is we are meant to bring to humanity at this point in time. Wow, what great news. What great news. I can stop hating on myself because, hey, I was created by an extreme creative intelligence. This divine intelligence of the universe created me just the way I am. Well, if it's divine intelligence, then how I'm created must be right. So here we are. We're building bridges of connection, and we build those bridges of connection as we connect to our own self. We have to start where we are. We have to find this presence within us, that divine one. We have to acknowledge that we are in the midst of this cosmic ocean, and that what we are is the wave of it, not separate from or different than, but we are it. There's a quote that I got from Thomas Troward that, we're meant to make a demand on the universe that whatever it is we desire about life, all we have to do is say, okay, here's the thing. Let's do this. Like we're planting a seed in that cosmic intelligence and it births it. You see, we don't do the how. That's where we trip ourselves up. We're always going, well, how's this going to happen? How am I going to do that? No, how's not our job. That's the universal job. It's like planting a seed in the ground and wondering how the ground is going to make it all happen. Well, I don't know how a little acorn turns into an oak tree. I don't know how that works, but it does, because I've placed that acorn in the soil, and the soil is the perfect mix of intelligence that brings it to fruition. When I plant an idea in my mind, I have planted in the fertile soil of the Divine One, and it simply says yes. It is the servant. It says yes. It says yes. And until I say, yeah, no, not now, it will bring into manifest form that which I have planted. But if I plant an idea of health and then I focus on how sick I am, guess what? Sick is what I get. If I focus on wealth and I keep doubting and feeling like I'm broke and poverty surrounds me, then guess what? Poverty is my reality, because that's the seed that's actually planted. So we want to pull out those weeds. As we're doing our spiritual practice, we want to pull out the weeds of negativity. We know in our gardens, which we'll be planting in the next couple of months, as we plant those gardens, we don't let the seeds go by allowing the weeds to overcome them. We take the weeds out so there's room. There's room for the growth of that which we desire. And so it is with our life. We want to take the seeds of negativity, the fear, the doubt, the worry. Let's take that out and allow the divine truth to become manifest. Allow ourselves to acknowledge and recognize, I am one with the Creator, not separate from or different than. The qualities of God are my qualities. So I stand in this moment fully formed, fully ready to breathe life into my vision, whatever it is that I'm created to be or to do. And I create it because I'm able to plant the seed of health, the seed of love, the seed of joy, the seed of connection, the seed of a humanity that works together for the betterment of all. When we come to that place of acceptance that all of us are valuable, creative, beautiful, marvelous, we start to see a ripple effect where the negativity starts to dissipate and the joy and the love and the laughter and the beauty starts to grow. We are the masters of our own destiny. And when we release the fear, the doubt, and the worry, and stand in the place of pure potential, we begin to create something masterful, beautiful, something remarkable. The very thing we were put here to create. Some of us came here to share love. Some of us came here to share joy. Some of us came here to create connections. All of us are here to live, and to live fully with excitement and delight, with passion and purpose, being exactly who we are. Nothing different, nothing separate, just who we are. Ernest Holmes, in the book This Thing Called You, wrote, "Become master of your thinking, hence master of your fate. Always do this with a sense of union with good, for you have not been left alone to fight a losing battle or contend against powers of evil. You have been left alone to discover your real nature, that as an individual you may consciously unite with the love of life and the presence of good. The only thing we have to offer to the world, the people around us, is ourself. When we connect authentically to our own individuality, as we honor who we really are, it becomes possible to connect with others in the same way. This is how we create a world that is loving, kind, and supportive. You are the answer. You are the answer. to a fulfilled and satisfied life and a peaceful, loving world. Namaste. All right. Well, we have a couple of announcements before we close tonight. And the first of those is tomorrow night on Zoom, we are going to present the message of our former spiritual leader, Dr. Edward Villion. And his message was so powerful at convention that I really wanted to share it with all of you. So if you're interested, just email the office for the Zoom link or go into our newsletter. The Zoom link is in there. And join us at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I think it's about a 30-minute message. And we can stick around and chat a little bit afterwards if you like. But do join. It's a wonderful message of growth, expansion, and connection at a global level, which is really beautiful. And the Spiritual Mind Treatment class is actually being moved to March the 25th. And so it's going to run March 25th and then April, what's the other date here? Look at the slide, April 1st. And this is where we learn how to create a really powerful, positive, and productive way of, well, we can call it affirmative prayer. I like to call it spiritual mind treatment because what we're doing is we're treating our mind to know something new, to know something different, or to accept a new reality. So that's going to be a great class. It's 4 hours of training in all, and there'll be an opportunity to work with others and really create a deep bond and to look at any area of your life where maybe you're experiencing a challenge, and this is going to help to shift that. And Spirit Cafe. So Spirit Cafe is on Wednesdays. Cheryl Rogers and I do this together. She's with Unity. And so we come together to have really courageous conversations. And this week we're talking to Joanne Bond, and the conversation promises to be uplifting, exciting, and stimulating, as it always is. So be sure to join on YouTube at noon on Wednesday, noon Eastern time, that is. And on Friday, we have the Joy Show with Sylvia Hayes, and that's at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And Sylvia, what a powerhouse. She wrote a book called When Life Blows Up, I think is what it's called. And her life blew up, and she has a great story around that. And also the way that she recovered, how she found ways to deal with the fear, the stress of that really traumatic event in her life. So be sure to join in Friday at 3 p.m. And my podcast has been renamed, so I'm just in the process of putting up new episodes. It's called Healing Revealed. And I will be sharing different messages as we go. And you can join on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. I'm sure there's a few other platforms there as well. Those are the big ones. So do join, and be sure to, if you find something interesting on there, share it, subscribe, and hey, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Well, thank you for joining. I'm really glad that you're here, and I hope that something said or done has added to your experience, to your life, and to your opportunity. And remember, this is saved on Facebook and on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube and share the link with friends, or you can listen again, which is always a nice thing to do. So thank you for being here tonight. I hope that you will consider sharing your wealth and your time and your talent with us. It is through the collective that we begin to create all the things that we do in a way that is powerful, positive, and productive. So I invite you to share generously, and we deeply appreciate anything you share in the way that you are able to share it. So no expectations, just a full acceptance of your gifts of love. And you can share by sending money through e-transfer to admin@cslonthelake.com. You can go to our website and hit the give link, or you can mail a check to our office, which you'll find on our website as well. So however you choose to give, we thank you, we bless you, we are truly, truly grateful for you and for your participation. Well, as we close, I just want to remind you to stick around afterward. We have a little bit of conversation and connection time after we finish. So please join with me in consciousness as we close out tonight's service. Within the infinite and the absolute, I discover strength and wisdom, power and presence. I acknowledge here and now that there really is only one thing, that I live, move, and have my being within it. So I know that because it is intelligent, I am intelligent, that it is powerful, I am powerful. Because it is a full expression of a divine and perfect idea, that my life expresses that in all ways, with health and vitality, wealth and well-being, with a sense of creativity and possibility, love, acceptance, and joy. And as we build these bridges one to the other, there's a building of consciousness and expanding of awareness, and truly a divine acceptance of life overall. A beautiful thing occurs. And I am so very grateful. Grateful for the journey, grateful for the time together, and grateful for all that I discover along the way. So filled with love and light, peace and joy, I release these ideas into the law of mind. It is done. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you all for being here. And